You're gone forever, and now the narcissist is haunted by guilt. You walk away. No more calls, no more arguments, no more justifying. You disappear from their world. But what happens inside the narcissist? What emotions swirl behind their defiant mask once the object of their control is gone forever? In this video, we're exploring the harsh truth. When you're truly gone, the narcissist is often left haunted, not by anger, but by guilt. And that guilt, silent, complex, and unsettling, is an emotional echo you might never see coming. We'll dive into their psychological world, where pride meets shame, where power meets regret, and where the absence of control becomes a source of pain they can't disguise. By the end, you'll understand why walking away isn't just your liberation. It may also be what finally shakes them awake. Stay with me until the end. You'll never look at their silence the same way again. Psychologists say guilt is an emotional mirror, one that narcissists desperately avoid. But when you truly walk away, that mirror fractures, and they can no longer ignore the reflection. Let's unpack what's really going on in their mind, and why their guilt, once hidden, can begin to haunt them deeply, even if they'll never admit it. 1. Absence breaks their control. Narcissists rely on emotional supply. Your responses, your presence, your reactions. When you're gone forever, that supply vanishes abruptly, leaving them unprepared. No more calls to manipulate. No more love bombing. No more silent punishments that loop you back in. That silence? It's not peace, it's lost control. And that gap between what they expect and what they receive shakes their psyche. When control evaporates, guilt often follows, because they begin to recognize the damage their manipulation created, and they realize it's now out of their hands to mend. 2. Pride collide with shame. Narcissists wear pride like armor, but inside, they build walls around a fragile core. They refuse to admit mistakes. They deflect blame. They rewrite narratives. Until you walk away. Then they're faced with this conflict. I need to be right, but they didn't come back. That tension cracks the armor. Even if they don't show it, the guilt surfaces. Shame seeps in where pride once ruled. What they did to hurt you, once justified by entitlement, now starts to feel wrong. And without your presence to distract or placate them, the internal judgment grows louder. 3. Haunted by their own reflection. Narcissists live through projection, seeing their flaws in others rather than themselves. You're so needy, you're dramatic, you're unstable. But gone forever, they're left with nothing to deflect onto. So the projection shifts inward. They start to see traces of the person they've become. Cold, emotionally destructive, self-protective, not self-aware. Guilt doesn't always come with apologies. It often arrives late, in the form of restlessness, insomnia, irritability, discomfort fueled by seeing a truth they don't want to face, but can't ignore. 4. Emotional echoes in the dark. Guilt can first appear in subtle ways. Random moments of sorrow, no explanation, unexplained aggression, or silence toward new people. Vivid memories of your hurt or tears, replaying in late-night mind tapes. Short-lived attempts to reach out, cloaked in concern or nostalgia, then pulled back by pride or shame. These are not signs of redemption. They're emotional tremors. Psychologists call these emotional echoes, residual pain bouncing back when the buffer supply is gone. It's not love that haunts them. It's the guilt of recognizing the person they hurt. When someone walks away from a narcissist for good, no contact, no begging, no emotional outbursts, the shift in the narcissist's internal world is more profound than they will ever admit, even to themselves. In the beginning, they may act indifferent, cold, triumphant, even. They might seem like they've moved on, perhaps flaunting someone new or claiming freedom. But underneath the facade, something begins to churn. And as time goes on, that churn becomes harder to ignore. Now we explore how guilt deepens, shifts shape, and begins to invade the narcissist's life. Silently, relentlessly. 5. Guilt turns into obsession. When you go no contact and stay gone, the narcissist doesn't just feel loss. They feel something more dangerous. Fixation. Because you stop feeding their ego, you become the one thing they can't predict, can't control, and can't define. Psychologically, this triggers obsession, not out of love, but out of wounded pride and unresolved guilt. They may replay old conversations in their head, scroll endlessly through your old social media profiles, check in with mutual friends to hear about you. These behaviors are rooted in a desperate attempt to rewrite what happened, because guilt doesn't sit well in the narcissistic mind. If they can find a way to make you the villain, or themselves a misunderstood one, the discomfort eases, if only temporarily, but it never really disappears, because obsession is a symptom of internal dissonance. The part of them that wants to maintain control is at war with the part of them that knows they lost someone they couldn't replace. 6. The new supply isn't a cure. One of the most common misconceptions about narcissists is this. When they find someone new, they're over you. But the truth? The new supply is not about healing. It's about distraction. And distraction isn't transformation. While the new partner might initially offer the narcissist a validation and attention they need to feel powerful again, it never lasts. Because no matter how compliant or idealized this person is, they're not you. They don't trigger the same guilt, the same challenge, the same emotional power struggle the narcissist had with you. And once the newness wears off, and it always does, the narcissist is left with two realities. This new person can't erase the guilt. You're still gone and thriving. This realization is deeply unsettling. It's not the new person's fault, but to the narcissist, it's a failure. A reminder that the life they tried to rebuild still feels hollow, because guilt doesn't disappear when replaced. It lingers. 7. Guilt warps into narrative control. Narcissists hate to feel out of control, especially of the story. So when the guilt becomes too heavy, many try to rewrite the narrative. They'll tell others you were unstable, that you betrayed them, that they tried everything and you just wouldn't change. They may exaggerate, fabricate, or conveniently forget their worst behaviors. Why? Because rewriting the past is easier than owning their part in it. But what's crucial to understand here is that this rewriting isn't always conscious lying. It's psychological defense. Their brain protects them from shame by constructing a version of events that softens their guilt and keeps their self-image intact. Still, deep down, a quieter voice remains, the one that whispers, "You know the truth." And it's that voice, often repressed, that keeps the guilt alive under the surface. 8. Nightmares, triggers, and quiet regret. As time passes, the narcissist may start experiencing unexpected emotional reactions, random anger, unexplained sadness, vivid dreams about the past, heightened sensitivity when reminded of you, your name, your favorite song, a memory they once dismissed. These reactions aren't signs of emotional growth. They're the mind's way of processing unresolved guilt. They may not pick up the phone. They may never apologize. But in the stillness of their own world, when the audience is gone and the mask is off, your absence echoes. And what haunts them most is not your voice, but the silence. 9. You become their internal what if. As the narcissist ages, or as their relationships repeat the same hollow cycles, they begin to reflect. Not always in healthy ways, but enough to feel the weight of consequences. That's when guilt shifts again. Now you're not just the one who left. You're the one they lost. They may never admit this. They may never message you or show up with remorse. But you become the internal symbol of something real they once had and destroyed. This isn't a romantic revelation. It's a psychological reckoning. Because as their world shrinks and the high of ego fades, they start to recognize that they had a chance at something genuine. And now it's too late. You've moved on. You've healed. You've built something better. And they're still haunted by the version of themselves they showed you, the one they can't unsee. When someone like you walks away and never looks back, the consequences aren't just emotional. They're existential for the narcissist. It challenges the very foundation of how they've operated their entire lives. And while they may never say it out loud, the internal breakdown is real. Let's now explore the final layers of this haunting guilt and what it really means when someone leaves a narcissist for good. 10. They rarely find closure because closure requires accountability. One of the key reasons narcissists stay stuck in guilt is because they can't find closure. Not because it's unavailable, but because they're unwilling to do the one thing required to gain it. Take responsibility. Closure requires accountability. It requires humility. It requires saying, Yes, I hurt you. Yes, I failed to be who I pretended to be. But for the narcissist, this feels like annihilation. Admitting fault punctures their inflated ego. It reveals the fragile self beneath. So instead, they remain in limbo, chasing control, rewriting stories, or trying to recreate the past with new people. And the guilt? It stays with them. Unnamed, unprocessed, embedded in everything they try to build afterward. 11. Guilt becomes part of their identity, but it's buried. Psychologically speaking, unresolved guilt doesn't vanish. It becomes internal noise. Over time, it becomes a subtle part of the narcissist's emotional identity. But unlike healthy guilt, which motivates change, narcissistic guilt is toxic. It doesn't lead to growth. It leads to withdrawal, shame, anger, and emotional disconnection. This is why you may see them grow more irritable, more erratic, or strangely sad without explanation, especially years after the relationship ended. The guilt didn't go anywhere. It just sank deeper. They become a person haunted not just by what they did, but by their inability to feel in the way others do. This inability becomes a scar they carry silently. 12. Their relationships become repetitions of failure, with you gone and guilt unresolved. The narcissist's future relationships often follow the same destructive pattern. They may start out charming, charismatic, even generous. But soon, cracks appear. Little things trigger big reactions. Moments of vulnerability feel threatening. And when intimacy grows too real, they sabotage it. Why? Because guilt makes them afraid of being exposed again. Your departure taught them a painful lesson. When someone truly sees them, they might leave. So they armor up. They keep their guard high. They never fully connect. And this distance kills a relationship before it can bloom. Again and again. Partner after partner. 13. They're haunted by the version of you they can't reach. Once you've truly healed, once you've moved on with grace and peace, you become something to the narcissist they can no longer access. A version of you that's untouchable. And that haunts them. They might recall how you used to plead for connection, how you tried to help them see their own patterns, how you gave and gave, even when it hurt. But now you're gone. Your name doesn't appear on their phone. Your attention isn't drawn by their provocations. Your emotions aren't available to manipulate. And the version of you that once made them feel powerful is replaced by someone they don't recognize. Someone who no longer needs them, loves them, or thinks about them. That version? That's what keeps them up at night. 14. Your silence is louder than their grandest apology. Perhaps the most powerful impact of walking away isn't in what you say. It's in what you don't say. Your silence becomes a mirror, not the kind that flatters, but the kind that reflects everything they try to deny. Every attempt to forget you is met with your absence. Every story they tell others is echoed by the truth they can't escape. Every time they reach their phone and stop themselves, they're reminded that you're not waiting. This silence to a narcissist is louder than a scream. It's more final than a breakup text. And it carves a wound they'll try to deny, but never really heal from. 15. They carry you as a shadow, not a memory. Years may pass. People may come and go. Life may take them to new places. But you don't vanish. Not because they loved you in a healthy way, but because you represent something rare, a mirror they couldn't control, a truth they couldn't bend, a line they couldn't cross without consequence. And so, while they pretend to have moved on, the reality is different. You become their emotional ghost, not because you haunt them actively, but because your absence is the one thing they can't reframe. You were real. You stood up. You left. And that truth lives with them forever. 16. You become the lesson they refuse to learn. For some narcissists, guilt could be the doorway to healing. It could be the first flicker of insight. But for most, it becomes a closed loop because they refuse to walk through it. You become the lesson they avoid, the warning sign they ignore, the moment that could have changed everything if only they had chosen differently. But they didn't. And so, while you grow, reflect, evolve, and thrive, they stay the same, emotionally frozen, circling the same guilt, making the same mistakes. You move forward. They stay haunted. In the end, Narcissists may never give you the apology you deserved. They may never admit the guilt that eats at them. But if you've ever wondered whether they feel the weight of what they did, the answer is yes. They do. They feel it in their silence, in the late-night regrets they never voice, in the way your absence reshapes their sense of control. But here's the most important part. Their guilt is no longer your responsibility. You don't need them to hurt for you to heal. You don't need their regret to validate your worth. You don't need their acknowledgement to reclaim your peace. The fact that you walked away and stayed gone is the closure they can't understand and the freedom they will never know. So when you think about them, don't imagine a life full of happiness and success. Imagine a room with mirrors they refuse to look into. Imagine a story they keep retelling because they can't face the real one. Imagine guilt not as justice, but as the echo of a truth they'll never admit. And then remind yourself, you are not there. You are not broken. You are not haunted. They are.